He looked me in the eyes, his voice soft and calm, and said, "Just because you're pregnant doesn't mean anything is going to change." I blinked. At first, I didn't even understand what he meant. But then, in the quiet of our dim bedroom, he kept going. "You're still expected to cook, clean, and do all the chores every day. Because if you can't handle a little work, how could you ever be a good mother?" That night, I didn't recognize the man standing in front of me. The man I'd been with for 5 years, married to for 3. The man I'd just created a life with. I didn't cry. Not yet. Because when you hear the ground crack beneath your feet, your first instinct is to freeze, not fall. We had just found out we were pregnant 3 weeks ago. We were trying. This wasn't an accident. When I saw that positive test, my whole world shifted. Joy, fear, hope. All of it came flooding in. We told our families. There were tears, hugs, baby shower plans. It felt like the beginning of a new chapter. But that night, he didn't speak to me like a partner. He didn't even speak to me like a friend. He spoke to me like I was a burden, like I had already failed. And all I had done was ask if he could turn off the lights. Let me back up. Jake, that's my husband, has always been a little lazy when it comes to the house. Nothing huge. Just little things, like leaving lights on around the house. So it had quietly become part of my nightly routine. After brushing my teeth, I'd go room to room, making sure the switches were all flipped off. It was annoying, but I didn't mind that much. It was just a thing I did. But that night, I wasn't feeling great. Nauseous, drained. Pregnancy fatigue hits in waves, and this one felt like a tidal crash. So I asked, just this once, if he could do it. He was standing by the door, not busy. I figured he'd say, "Sure." Instead, he looked at me and said, "No, that's what's expected of you every night." Those words, "expected of you," hit me like ice water. It wasn't the first time I'd done something for him, but it was the first time he acted like I was supposed to, like it was part of my job description. Still, I didn't want to fight. I turned off the lights, but when I came back to bed, he started talking. He said I shouldn't expect special treatment. That being pregnant doesn't make me fragile. That being a mother means pushing through, no matter how you feel. That if I started needing help now, I'd never survive motherhood. And the way he said it, not loud, not angry, just cold, like he was laying out facts. He talked for 30 minutes, not a discussion, a lecture. Finally, I asked, "Well, what do you plan on doing to help me with all of this?" His eyes narrowed. He said he already works his ass off, that he provides for me, that I don't have a job, that I'm just a student, that he's the one carrying the weight for this family. And then he said the words that shattered whatever was left. It doesn't matter how you feel, physically or mentally. That's just what mothers do. That's when I snapped. I didn't yell at first. I just said, "I wish I would have known this is how you felt before I got pregnant with your baby." And then, silence. He stared at me for a moment, and then he started crying. I was frozen, not out of sympathy, but out of shock. He left, didn't say goodbye, just packed a small bag and went to his mom's house. He hasn't been back since. But that's not the worst part. The next day, his mom and his sister called me, not to check if I was okay, not to ask what happened. They berated me, told me I broke Jake's heart, told me I needed to apologize immediately, told me he wouldn't come home until I did. I told them what he said, word for word. They dismissed it, said I was being too sensitive. That pregnancy isn't an excuse to be lazy. That Jake meant no harm. They said, he's just scared. Men get overwhelmed too. Right. Scared enough to lecture his pregnant wife for 30 minutes and then go cry to mommy. That's when I packed a bag and went to my parents' house. When I told my mom what happened, her face changed. She said, "You're not talking to him again unless someone else is in the room, or you record it." She was furious. Not just at him, but at me too, a little, for letting this slide for so long. Because here's the thing, it didn't start with the pregnancy. Not really. Looking back, there were signs. Like how I was always the one to clean up after him. How I stopped asking him to do things, because it just turned into an argument. How it was easier to keep the peace than to fight for respect. But I thought that was just marriage. I thought I was choosing my battles. I thought love meant compromise. I didn't realize I was slowly being trained to lower my standards. And now I'm carrying a child. And suddenly I'm realizing that I'm not married to a partner. I'm married to a boss. A man who thinks the only contribution he needs to make is financial. That nurturing, caregiving, and household labor are beneath him. A man who thinks that being a good mother means being silent, suffering, and selfless. And worst of all, a man who thinks that asking for help makes me weak. But maybe I'm not the weak one. Maybe I'm just finally strong enough to say, this isn't love. Because love isn't about who makes the money. Love isn't about who does the chores. Love is about stepping up when your partner is down. Love is about saying, I see you're hurting. Let me carry a little more today. Jake didn't do that. Instead, he made sure I knew I was alone. So, am I the asshole? Was I wrong for snapping? Was I wrong for saying that if I had known his true colors, I would have made a different choice? Was I wrong for not apologizing? Or was I just finally being honest? Because for the first time in a long time, I didn't stay quiet. And maybe, just maybe, that's the first step in becoming the kind of mother I do want to be. One who teaches her child that love isn't control, that strength isn't silence, and that being tired doesn't mean you failed. It means you've been trying every single day until now. This story isn't just about a fight over chores. It's about how subtle patterns become lifelong prisons, how the expectations we don't talk about become the rules we live by. When this young woman asked for help, she wasn't just asking for one favor. She was asking for partnership, for compassion, for someone to stand beside her when things got hard. And what she got was silence, dismissal, and abandonment. That's not weakness. That's control. And when she finally spoke up, when she said the truth out loud, the people around her didn't rush to understand. They rushed to silence her. So ask yourself, how many times have you been told to push through? How many times has someone treated your pain like an inconvenience? How many times have you stayed quiet just to keep the peace? And what if, today, you stopped? This story isn't just hers. It's a mirror. Because too often, we're expected to give everything and ask for nothing. But love, real love, doesn't ask for your silence. It asks for your truth. So, what would happen if you finally spoke it? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. This has been AITA Story Vault. Until next time, take care of yourself. And don't ever apologize for asking to be seen.